For more than 75 years, one diary, written by a teenage girl, has served as a powerful voice for millions who were silenced. It's a story we think we know, one of hope, of fear, of incredible human resilience. But hidden behind Anne Frank's unforgettable words is a mystery that has puzzled investigators for decades. How were they found?
It all comes down to this one date. After 761 days hidden away from the world, the 8 people living in the Secret Annex were discovered. The raid was quick, and it was final.
And there it is, the central question. For so many years, the answer seems simple. Betrayal. Someone tipped off the authorities. But as we're about to see, the real story might be a whole lot more complicated than that.
To really understand what happened on that final day, you have to go back. You have to see the life that was cut short and how a normal girl's world was taken apart piece by piece, forcing her family to make an absolutely impossible choice.
This timeline really shows you just how fast everything spiraled. The Franks thought they'd found safety in Amsterdam, right? But the very thing they were running from caught up with them in less than 10 years. And that famous diary, just a simple birthday gift, arrived only a few weeks before they had to literally vanish.
I mean, when you see the rules laid out like this, it's just chilling. This wasn't just a list of things you couldn't do. No, this was a system designed to completely isolate people, to dehumanize them. Anne wrote about this slow, methodical theft of freedom, the kind that makes hiding not just a choice, but the only chance for survival.
And so that's what they did. They disappeared into a hidden space behind a bookcase. For over 2 years, 761 days, that tiny annex was their entire world.
And get this, there were 8 people crammed in there. The Franks, the Van Pels family, and Fritz Pfeiffer. 8 people, all sharing this tiny, confined space, constantly terrified that a single cough or a creaky floorboard would give them away. The pressure, you just can't even imagine it.
And nothing hits home harder than Anne's own words. It wasn't just about being trapped inside. It was about everything that was stolen from her. A normal life, the simple things every teenager should get to experience.
Tragically, as we know, Anne didn't survive the Holocaust, but her voice did. And the story of how her diary, which was literally just a pile of loose papers found scattered on the floor after the raid, became one of the most important books of the 20th century, well, it's a miracle in its own right.
The diary only survived because of incredible bravery. One of the helpers, a woman named Miep Gies, went back up to the annex after the raid and collected all of Anne's papers. She hoped to give them back to Anne one day. When she found out Anne had died, she gave them to Otto Frank, the only one from the annex who survived. It was his gut-wrenching decision to publish his own daughter's private thoughts that gave her voice to the entire world.
But here's something you might not know. The Anne that the world first read about in 1947 wasn't the whole Anne. Her father, Otto, had edited out parts he felt were too personal, which is totally understandable. But later, a definitive edition was published that put those parts back in. It gave us a much more real, more complex teenager dealing with everything from fights with her mom to her own changing body. And that really matters, because it took her from being just a symbol to being a real, relatable human being.
Okay, so this brings us right back to that fateful day, August 4th, 1944. For decades, the story of an anonymous betrayal, probably a phone call, was just accepted as what happened. But newer research suggests we might have been asking the completely wrong question this whole time.
This quote from the director of the Anne Frank house really puts it all into perspective. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher, right? You can't just label someone in the history books as the person who betrayed Anne Frank unless you have stone-cold proof. And the thing is, that proof has never, ever been found.
So let's just quickly look at the main suspects over the years. There was a warehouse worker, Willem van Manen, who the helpers really didn't trust, but he was investigated 2 separate times and they could never prove it was him. Other theories popped up about his wife or about a known Nazi informant, but they were all based on rumors and hearsay. There was never any hard evidence. The trail just always went cold.
So, this is where things take a really fascinating turn. After all these years looking for who did it, researchers started to wonder, what if we're asking the wrong question? What if the police weren't there to find people hiding at all? What if it was all just a terrible, terrible accident?
Turns out, we know for a fact that there was other illegal stuff going on in that building.
Things like people dealing fraudulent ration coupons on the black market. So, this opens up a whole new possibility. What if the raid was about those crimes, and the police just stumbled upon the secret annex completely by chance? It's a theory that totally changes the narrative from a deliberate act of betrayal to just a tragic coincidence.
At the end of the day, we may never know for sure how they were discovered. But what we know without a shadow of a doubt is the incredible power of the voice that was found that day.
Just look at this number. Over 30 million copies sold. That is just staggering. It shows how one girl's private thoughts, written down in a hidden room, could become this universal symbol for the human spirit. Her story has literally reached every corner of the planet.
And this quote, wow, she wrote this less than 3 weeks before she was arrested. Think about that. To see all the horror around you so clearly, to hear that approaching thunder, but to still somehow hold on to the hope that things will get better, that right there is her true legacy.
So while the mystery of what happened on that day might never be solved, the power of the voice that was discovered is undeniable. Her diary turned a number, one of 6 million, into a person, a real human being we feel like we know. And it leaves us with one final, really important question. How differently would we understand all this history if it weren't for the words of this one girl?